Well, good morning, everybody. I'm impressed that you made it here on a day like this. This is the kind of weather that meteorologists, the technical term for it is rude. You just do not want to be getting out of bed. So my goal is that we're going to spin a cocoon around you for the next hour that's going to make you glad that you came today. So we have a neighborhood bear, and his name is Underwood. But I've also heard him called Randy. He may answer to both, I'm not sure. Just don't call him late for garbage day, which he has figured out is Thursday. And so all through the summer, on Thursday, at kind of the crack of dawn, he would amble into the complex and go right to the garbage enclosure. And plan A was just to flick the latch, and if it hadn't been latched properly, he was in. If anybody had done that right, he would go straight to plan B, which is rip the boards off the front, pull out the compost, and then either force it open or sit on it. Both worked. And then he would chow down and leave a trail, of fruit rinds and eggshells and goo all over the place. And then he would head off on his own to the next stop on the trap line. And that was his MO pretty much all summer. Until one day, plot twist, he showed up with a +1, an accomplice, a coyote. Now, it's not unknown in the animal kingdom for different species to collaborate for their mutual benefit, but I couldn't figure out what exactly Coyote was bringing to the table here. So my first guess was that maybe Coyote was the scout, and he would sniff out the cache, and then they would go to and then Bear was the muscle, and they would. But then I learned that actually bears have a much better sense of smell than coyotes do. So it wasn't that. So my current theory is that what Bear was getting from Coyote was companionship. Because bears are not the most sort of socially agile animals, and especially young male bears, they're kind of a little bit lost. They're kind of drifting around, and suddenly, here's this little dude who's kind of fun, and he's not all business like Bear. He's kind of fun. They're tricksters, right? So he's got this youthful energy. But Coyote's biggest trick is that not only is he youthful, he's actually also at the same time quite wise. So coyotes, they mate for life, and they co-parent, and they do a lot of very adult-y things. And so Coyote is sort of this magical combination of youth and old age. And I was thinking, Bear could learn a lot. But what Coyote is to Bear is kind of a life coach. And that's a big role. And so I thought, okay, to me, that's even Steven. Bear gets the food, and Coyote's life coach. So where am I going with all of this today? Today, what I mean to say is relationships are complicated. And you never quite know there's always an exchange. There's a give and take, no matter what it is, between friends, spouses, colleagues. And there's always something going in both directions, but you never quite know what it is. Even if you're part of the arrangement, you're not quite sure exactly what it is. So Today, we're going to be asking ourselves these kinds of questions. Who are we for each other? And who can we be? And who should we be? And can we confirm that Robin Wall Kimmerer was correct when she said that all flourishing is mutual? And as we think about that, let me just say it's lovely to be with you, and let's get started with some singing.
Let's lift our voices and singing together, "'Tis a gift to be simple."
Thanks, Catherine. Well, good morning and welcome again, everybody. Welcome to our humble community of seekers and searchers, our spiritual argonauts and hard-headed rationalists and everything in between. My name's Bruce Grierson, and I'm thrilled to be on the bridge here this morning. We are, as you know, a five-person team that steers these lay-led services, and so far it's an experiment that's been working, and a lot of the credit for that goes to the volunteers who toil away with no glory at all. And of course, a lot of it is you who keep showing up and sometimes inviting friends and maybe even occasionally enemies. All are welcome. All are welcome. Bears and coyotes. Who are we to judge? We meet here Sundays on the traditional and ancestral territory of the Coast Salish people, the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh people. It's beautiful land, and we're grateful to be able to share it. Now, as every morning, we begin the proceedings here by lighting the chalice, and today I'm so pleased that Malcolm Mallory's going to do the honors. And you rarely see him up here because he has to be there, so Barry's jumped into the breach. Now, Malcolm, I'm going to say a few things here. Have you heard of this Confucian concept of Jen, Jen, Jen? I like that word for obvious reasons, but I really like what it stands for in that Eastern faith tradition. So Jen is the capacity of humans to bring out the best in others. And there's a little bit of Confucian math involved here. So the numerator, there's a Jen ratio, and the numerator is things we do that bring out the best in others, and the denominator is things we do that are kind of neutral or maybe even bring out the worst in others. We can't spread sunshine all the time. But what you want to do is keep your Jen ratio high, with the numerator bigger than the denominator, and just generally be making people better. And I can't think of anyone with a higher Jen ratio than Malcolm. All righty. Every week, reliably as an atomic clock, he films these services, and then he goes home and he works his magic in the editing suite to get them ready for posting, and you have no idea how much fine-schmecking there is involved with this, with sound levels and so on, and yet just magically it appears on our site. All we see is the results. no one has ever seen Malcolm as anything less than kind or even raise his voice. Upon this rock, we build North Shore Unitarian. All right, let's get going. I forgot to light your little child candle, so I'm going to do that and bring up. It's a Playboy lighter for some reason. I don't know why or who. Okay, there we go.
I'm not putting my glasses on to check the Playboy thing.
Okay, so okay, there we go. For this first one, we kindle this flame as a symbol of our gathering.
May the light of understanding illuminate our darkness. May the warmth of sharing bring us peace.
Thank you. Our second candle, and you can kind of swing around behind, is a candle of joys and concerns. Okay, my first joy, just while it's on top of my mind, I made a bookmark that I'm extremely proud of in Jani's art garden on the weekend, or just a couple of days ago. And it's amazing, when Jani is involved in anything around here, I always sign up, and she did 3 successive weeks of art projects. Liz, you were there, it was amazing. And so let's file that under a joy. And if she does it again, I highly recommend you go. Another joy, these poinsettias. A joy, they're beautiful, and there's a mystery to them too. We know who donated these big ones here. That's Minako Roberts. Is Minako here? Yeah. No, she's not here. Okay, but that was a mystery too for a while, and then it became clear. We don't know who donated the ones out there. But it's like a reverse heist. They came, they left something, and then they took off, and we don't know who it is. But it's a wonderful thing, and we thank them for it. Any other joys or sorrows that anybody wants to call out that you want to share? Okay. Well, let's say for all the joys and sorrows that you're carrying, and I know a lot of you are, we light the second candle. Thank you. You're very patient there, Malcolm. And then today we're going to do something a bit different, and we're going to combine. So we started lighting candles for Advent. Last week was the first candle of Advent, the candle of hope. And Advent is it's a Christian holiday, but it's about hope, peace, and joy. And these are emotions that any faith tradition can get with, and so we felt it was appropriate to do it. So today we have the candle of peace, and I'm rolling that in with the candle of global concerns, because when we talk about global concerns, often really what we're talking about mostly is peace. Peace is the one thing that we can all agree that we want, and yet the thing that seems so hard to maintain when you have it, and so hard to get back when you lose it. So, Malcolm, here's to the candle of peace. Yeah, exactly. And global concerns. And last week, if you remember, with the candle of hope, we introduced a song that's really a kind of hymn. It was attributed. It has been attributed to Steve Biko, the anti-apartheid activist, but it's actually much, much older. It's at least 200 years old, and it was so hauntingly beautiful. I thought, this is what Unitarians sound like when we prayed together. And I said, we got to do it again. And so we are. And I'm going to invite Allison to teach us the drill here, and then we'll do it. Thanks.
It's almost like a meditation following your breath. So as you breathe in, be conscious of breathing in. Feel the air as it moves through your throat or through your nose. And then when you sing these wonderful words, there is more love somewhere, there is more love somewhere. I'm going to keep on until I find it. There is more love somewhere. And let that become a mantra as you're singing that out. And then you breathe that back in, and then you sing it out the next verse. So I'd encourage you to just be still. Allow this song to work its magic through you.
There is more love
wants to stretch into another harmony.
There is more peace somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more peace somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy somewhere.
That's amazing. I think we almost have to do that every week. Okay. So, I'm going to invite you to picture this gentleman, Robert Grierson, my grandfather, standing in the middle of a dusty little village in North Korea, circa 1900. This was where he lived, having been sent over there by the Presbyterians as a medical missionary to seed the Word of God among people who hadn't actually asked for it. Tough gig. Grandpa was a 5'6" packet of energy with an attitude of no project too big. So he landed there, promptly set up a little hospital, and he was the doctor. Set up a school, and he was the principal. Set up a church, and he was the minister. He set up a band, and he led it. But everybody has their limits, and Reverend Robert Grierson, M.D., Haligonian dynamo, the Korean Bethune, as we used to call him, was nearing his limit when one day, a stranger walked into camp. So Grandpa comes out to meet him. And now, as I say, he'd been under increasing strain, kind of keeping this dog and pony show going, and he'd written a letter to the mission field coordinator back in Toronto, and he said, you know what, it's going okay, doing good work, I think, making a difference, I believe, but I'm burning out a little bit here. I could really use an assistant. The only problem is I can't afford to pay more than bread and butter. So that was a month earlier. And now here's this stranger standing in front of him. This guy is like, Dr. Grierson, I presume. Yes, who are you? I'm your bread and butter man. Hugh Miller was his name. He'd heard about the need, and he knew of my grandfather, and he was a little in awe of his chutzpah, and so he stepped up to help as Grandpa's bread and butter man. Now, ideally, this is where I'd show you a picture of Hugh, but there isn't one. None exists, and that will tell you something about the world's bread and butter men and women. They aren't in the pictures because they're taking the pictures. Anyway, you can imagine. My grandfather's blown away. He prayed for help, and now it's here. And this guy seems to have come straight out of central casting. Even his name fits. Hugh, short for humility, maybe. Long story short, the bread and butter man comes through in spades for my grandfather. He's competent, he's dedicated, and most importantly, he keeps Grandpa's spirits up. Because this was a time of wicked political turbulence in Korea. The Koreans were being brutally oppressed by the communist Chinese, and Bob and Hugh joined the underground resistance movement, and they hosted secret meetings in the dead of night. My grandfather risked his life for the Koreans, and Hugh risked his life for my grandfather. Hugh was so important to the whole endeavor over there that he earned a whole chapter in my grandfather's memoir, and it's called, of course, The Bread and Butter Man. Now, I've told this story quite a lot, and there's often a common reaction from people when they hear it. Where can I get me a bread and butter man? right? I mean, we're all so busy. I mean, who couldn't use an extra set of hands and feet and ears? That'd be awesome. Imagine what you could get done with a tailwind like that. But I want to encourage you today to not think that way. Instead of asking, where can I find a bread and butter man? I'm going to suggest it's more valuable sometimes to ask, how can I be a bread and butter man or woman to somebody else? And just to streamline the narrative going forward here, I'm going to ask for a pass on the chauvinist language. So when I say bread and butter man, please assume I mean bread and butter human. Okay, so I'm going to keep saying bread and butter man. So this is a fairly radical idea. You know, in our culture, we're primed to be the doer, not the helper. We want to climb. We don't want to belay. We want to be Don Quixote, not Sancho Panza. We want to be Johnson, not Boswell. We want to be Confucius, not Yan Hui. We want to be the Buddha, not Ananda. I actually had to look those last two guys up. They're the guys who were sort of walking around and taking notes about the great leaders and making sure that they got down their wise sayings for posterity. They were basically the bread and butter men of those two guys. Their PR department, basically. Okay, so who signs up for a job like that? Here I am, reporting for duty. I am your amplifier and champion. Well, Rumi said, be a lamp or a lifeboat or a ladder. And that's kind of what the bread and butter man basically is. He helps get someone else to the place that person wants to go. So if you're wondering at this point, what does any of this have to do with Unitarian Universalism? Well, to my ears, it rhymes pretty well with our mission of encouraging each other to live with depth, meaning, and purpose. The Unitarian minister Margaret Wheatley used to say, I'm not here to make you happy. I'm here to help you be your best self. This faith is a serving faith. It saves people's lives. Now, this gentleman is not a Unitarian, but he's something close. He's a utilitarian. He's Rutger Bregman, the Dutch historian, who has pioneered a field called moral ambition. So Bregman's big idea is that we should all try to find a great thing to work on. That should be our life project, to find your great thing and then get down to business making it happen. So what's a great thing? Well, a great thing is something that's both personally fulfilling to you and has a high social impact. The question is, how can I live a rich, full, well-rounded life that also makes a dent in the universe in the sense that it improves the overall welfare of humans to some small degree? So how do you figure out what your great thing should be? It's not like somebody comes and hands you a work order. Here's your great thing. Get busy, you know. Sometimes Bregman says what you need to do is find yourself a wise old wizard to apprentice yourself to. He calls this the Gandalf-Frodo model of moral progress. So there's Frodo on the right there. That's you in this construction. Gandalf is someone you know, or someone you know of or hear of, someone who's doing a great thing. They've got some awesome ideas, but they need help executing them. So you step up and you follow Gandalf across the threshold into the extraordinary world of effective altruism. So it's his vision, but you play a key part, bigger than you realize. Remember, and I ask you to cast your mind back to high school physics. There was probably a unit on the simple machine. Do you remember that? The simple machine has some job that it's doing, and the job becomes easier and more efficient as you increase the mechanical advantage. So Bregman would say, a great way to live is to hunt for a mission and a missionary who's at the spear tip of it and find a way to add leverage. Oh, okay, so look at this guy. Pretty impressive. Whoa, really impressive now. Wow. Okay, man. Look at him go. Look at him go. He's really... Wait. What? Oh. All right, well, Gandalf's going, couldn't have done it without you, Frodo. All right, so I'm going to now, is Allison already, she's already on the road. I'm going to give her credit for where I'm going next with this, even though she's not here to hear it. Who's heard of this idea of servant leadership? Anyone? Okay, yeah. Allison knows a lot about this, and she put me onto what I didn't realize was a whole discipline. So servant leadership has its roots in Christianity. The original servant leader would be Jesus there, and whose idea of leading his disciples was to get down on the ground and wash their feet. But these days, if you go into a bookstore and ask, I'd like something on servant leadership, they won't send you into the religion section, they'll put you into the business section. The term servant leadership was actually coined by an AT&T executive called Robert Greenleaf. He says, good leaders must first become good servants. Okay, servants of who? Of what? Well, of your employees in this case. You may be the boss, but your number one goal, Greenleaf would say, isn't profits, it isn't power, it isn't status, it's the spiritual growth of your employees. Now, ideally, because you're in business, the spiritual growth of your employees and the financial success of your company are kind of related. Happy souls, happy goals, or something like that. This isn't therapy or charity, it's business. So, Greenleaf, he happened to be a Christian, but he was also into Eastern philosophy, as it turns out, and he developed the concept of servant leadership after reading this book. This is Hermann Hesse, a novel called Journey to the East. It's not his most famous one, but it's the one that really got through to Greenleaf. It's pretty hippy-dippy, I gotta say, but also pretty compelling. It's sort of Eastern sci-fi mysticism. So the gist of it is, and this is a spoiler alert, I guess, if anyone's going to run out and wanting to read this book, plug your ears. A group of artists, painters and musicians and writers travel across space and time. Their destination is the land of light in the east, kind of like an Oz out there. But they're a dysfunctional group. Of course they are. They're artists, right? And there's a lot of bickering. And the one thing that keeps the train from going off the rails is one guy, a humble servant named Leo, who's been tagging along and carrying stuff. And Leo, in his own quiet way, pulls the squad together. He keeps the group's spirits up with song and entertainment. He pumps everybody's tires and makes them feel like, I can do this, I got this. But here's the twist. This is the spoiler. We learn in the end that Leo is not what he seems. He's not just some dude who happens to be along as a donkey. He's actually a great spiritual leader. He's the great spiritual leader. He's like a secret shopper in the mix there. His role, the reason he's there is to guide his flock toward their true identities, their true selves. So that is servant leadership. It's a stealth mission to help the people you're serving grow. You set up the conditions for them to see their blind spots and deepen their thinking and become wise. It's like management consultancy for the soul. Now, Hugh Miller, the bread and butter man to my grandfather, was, I believe, a servant leader. He helped my grandfather find his true self. I actually think my grandpa is what we would now diagnose him as having ADHD. Like his eyes were bigger than his tummy in terms of what he took on, right? He was enormously ambitious. He shouldered a heroic number of tasks, but it was actually too much for him. Things would all have come crashing down had the bread and butter man not shown up and sort of bailed him out. The great man was flawed, and the humble servant came along with ways to quietly make him whole. So, what is the takeaway here? What is the project? What am I talking about? I guess what I'm promoting here at kind of the highest level is a change to our culture, our Western culture right now. Our Western culture where we love our individualism. We love being top dog, Give me the ball. Like me on Instagram. But enough about me. What do you think about me? I'm bound for greatness and destined to lead. Okay, that's great, but when that's everybody's default position, it becomes a problem. This is not just a chicken. This is a super chicken. Now, super chickens are chickens that have been bred to be the best of the best, the strongest, the most virile, the most productive. A really cool study was done recently, and if I remember, I'll put a reference to it in the little note that goes out on email after. Researchers wondered, what if you bred a bunch of super chickens and you kind of made a dream team of them? You put them together in the same flock. That would be awesome, right? Well, it turns out that a whole flock of super chickens very quickly becomes a story you never ever want to tell young children at bedtime. All those alpha chickens end up pecking each other to death. Right. So what's needed in any group is at least a few chickens willing to park their ego and say, yeah, I'm content to be a beta chicken here, a support chicken. Because the truth is that most of life's big solutions are collective solutions, right? They aren't solo eureka blasts that some lone wolf came up with in the garage. So one of the most important questions we can ask is, how can I add value to what's taking shape here? How can I contribute to this conversation that's been going on for generations? How can I add my little cheese pairings to the pile of best ideas that other people have come up with to this point? If I can find a mentor who's really cooking, really making something happen, and I can scrub in as their chopper and their champion, I should consider myself lucky. That is a life well lived. As I say, that's one way to see the world, and it's very rare to find people who really do think like that. Real life bread and butter men. But they do exist. A guy I know by the name of James is an art director for a magazine I do some work for. James is not actually the main art guy. He's sort of second banana. The main art guy is a mad genius who lives in Brazil and emails stuff in periodically. The way James describes their relationship is, he's the architect and I am the carpenter. So James takes the mad genius's wild anarchic design and he massages it into something that's actually readable sometimes. This is James's role, and this is how he actually explains it. He said, we were just talking one day, and this is how he put it. I had to go write it down. I help hotshot designers realize their vision. If I've done my job right, you never notice me. I said, you mean like a good waiter? They're invisible till they drop a dish. And he said, something like that. And I said, well, next it will be you who steps up to be the guy. And he said, yeah, I don't think so. I've been doing this for 30 years. I think that switch would have flipped by now. Humility. I think it's pretty much the most important quality a human can have. Humility is the virtue on which all other virtues stand, as St. Augustine put it. So art director James is humble almost to a fault. And here's the thing, it's not like he doesn't have the skills himself. He's actually very smart and talented in his own right. But so is the other guy, the big cheese art director. And James knows that the big cheese art director needs to feel great about himself in order to churn out his best work. So James says, okay, you and me, man, we're flexing our moral ambition to the hilt right now. Call me Frodo. I will subsidize your talent with my own. James has also figured out a secret. One of the great secrets in life, I think. It's that putting yourself in a position to keep learning is almost the most powerful thing you can do. In some ways, the position of learning is more powerful than the position of teacher because there's just more headroom there. Teaching is finite, learning is infinite. Service is like an engine that burns its own smoke. It's a source of magic energy that keeps renewing itself. So this idea is central to almost all major faith traditions, that we need to stay alive for opportunities to serve. And many cultures too, although I think some cultures and some countries lean into it more than others. There was a very, very small news story that broke in August. You may have missed it. It was very small. It was one of those light ones that they put at the end of the newscast just to kind of, send you out with a smile on your face. It was about a couple in the BC interior who found themselves in a predicament. The Napoleon Grill Company, they make backyard barbecues. I don't know, has anyone... We have one. They're a pretty big company. There are a lot of these barbecues around. So what happened was the company messed up. and they accidentally listed this couple's home number on their customer support page. So damn, this poor retired couple, suddenly their phone's ringing off the hook with folks needing help with their barbecue. What a schmozzle. What would you do? Well, here's what they did. Instead of unplugging the phone, they took the calls. And to make sure they weren't giving people bad information about grilling their meat, they researched the heck out of Napoleon grills until they were effectively functioning as a useful tech support department for the company. And when I heard that story, I thought, that may be the most Canadian thing I've ever heard. And then I thought, I sure hope that company paid them. Because there's a fine line between being a noble servant and being a doormat. And also, the Napoleon Grill Company is not Gandalf. It's a for-profit or corporation. I'm sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Kamjanovic of Kelowna, BC, but part of me feels like the one being grilled here was you good folks. So that's a bit of a tangent, but something to keep in mind. I couldn't not say it. A lot of us Canadians and a lot of us Unitarians, we're pleasers, right? Speaking as a recovering pleaser myself, I can tell you that pleasing is different from serving. Pleasing is an affliction because you're doing it for you, for reasons that aren't always that healthy. You can be addicted to the payoff of being thought of as just so gosh darn nice. And so I guess just to close this little spur line that we ended up on, I'm saying we got to be aware of why we're doing what we're doing when we go all good Samaritan, just by the by on that. Now, I don't think Hugh Miller was a pleaser. I mean, we'll never know exactly why he flew to Korea to pledge himself to my grandfather and be his bread and butter man, but I suspect he got a deep and genuine satisfaction from it. You can create a lot of meaning in your life by helping someone else do something that's meaningful for them. Hat tip to James Clear for putting it that way, actually. If there's a good kind of selfish, then this is what it looks like. Someone was doing a worthy thing, and you came along, and you put your energy and expertise behind it, and you made it even better. I would argue that's a spiritual impulse, or at least a deeply moral one. So there they are. You got your Gandalf and you got your Frodo, and what's happening between them represents what Greenleaf calls a reciprocal choice. Both these guys are steering by the same agreed-upon vision, the same moral authority. And you can call that God, or you can call it a spark of the divine in every human heart, or you can call it basic decency of the sort that if everybody were to buy in, we might just make it through these turbulent, polarizing, crazy-making times alive. Now, one final thought before I come in for a landing here. Most of us will never become bread and butter people in the sense that we'll never latch onto a single person who we will then proceed to give deep service to for our whole life. We'll never be a Frodo to a Gandalf. We'll never be a Hugh Miller to a Robert Grierson. Now, should we be? Is it always better to be a helper than to be the star? My own feeling is that most of us play both roles in our life as the occasion requires. Sometimes we're Gandalf, like to our children maybe. Sometimes we're Frodo, like maybe to our boss. And then as we grow older, that could be the time to flip the script and you start playing the role of Frodo even though we're looking more and more like Gandalf. Richard Rohr is right about a lot of things, and I think he's right about this too, maybe. The first half of life is about building yourself up, and the second half of life is about giving yourself away. I actually think if you take the attitude of servant leadership to heart, it almost doesn't matter which role you're playing, Frodo or Gandalf, because both are tracking the same constellation of values. The only difference is one of you got there first. Here's a fun fact. The word consider, have you ever thought about the etymology of that word? It actually means to look at the stars together. Considere, stars. Sidereal comes from that. Look at the stars together. Consider. Amazing. We all wash each other's feet. We help guide one another to our authentic identities. We help each other find our true selves. As a side gig, I do a little bit of ghostwriting. I'm very fortunate in that I get to meet a lot of people who've lived these incredible lives, and I'm going, wow, you've lived such a big life. You've seen more, you've risked more, sacrificed more, suffered more, achieved more than I can ever even imagine. I'm a little bit in awe. Maybe what I can contribute is I can help you get your story out of you and into the minds of other people who can benefit from it. As a ghost writer, my job is to shine you up for the world and stay out of the light myself. And you know what? It can be super satisfying to be the cheering squad for somebody who deserves to be so much better known. Not because of their accomplishments, but because of the character traits that, in a way, made those accomplishments happen. You play a role like that for somebody too. I guarantee you do. Right now. You know, maybe you don't write down all the clever things they say. Maybe you don't prop them up in the shop window, but you lift them up in other ways that maybe can't be measured, but that they can absolutely feel. Keep doing that. Don't second guess your motives. Don't get all heady about this. Just do it and celebrate the results you see. May it be so, and may it continue.
Sure as spring that deepens in summer to fall autumn rain, resting still in winter to spiral again. Together, my friend, we'll weave on, we'll weave on. A love that heals, friend, that bends, friend, that rising and turning and like the mountain to rain, or frost in the spring, or darkness that turns with the dawn. It's by turning, 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 my friend, by turning that love moves on. We'll weave a love that opens our eyes to see one another beyond all disguise, where our trust like water will wash away lies. Together, my friend, we'll weave on, we'll weave on. I love that heals, friend, that bends, friend, that rising and turning and heals, friend, like a mountain to rain, or frost in the spring, or darkness that turns with the dawn. It's by turning, 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 my friend, by turning that love moves on. We'll love that touches our pain, that comes like the water to drought fever plains. So the roots once withered sing praise to the rain. Together, my friends, we'll weave on, we'll weave on. A love that heals, friend, that bends, friend, that rising and turning and heals, friend, like the mountain to rain, or frost in the spring, or darkness that turns with the dawn. It's by turning, 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 my friend, by turning that love moves on.
Gorgeous, Kathy. Well, I'll probably have you just sort of stay up here because that was verses 1 to 3 of that song, and then we're going to do 4 and 5 with everybody backing Kathy up in a moment here. Time for our offering. Our outreach recipient for the month of December is the North Shore Women's Center. All plate donations will go to this local charity that's dedicated to improving the lives of women empowering women socially, legally, economically, politically. The shelter offers services like basic computer training, and there's a family law clinic, single mom support groups, so on. We think it's one of the most impactful charities we support. You can give in a number of ways, including the digital way you see up on the screen. Just be sure to, if you want a tax receipt, write your name down somewhere. And as the ushers prepare to receive the offering, I'll invite Kathy again to perform another song. This one, what did you call it? And I think you're right, the unofficial
second anthem of Canada.
Second Canadian anthem by Stan Rogers. It's the Northwest Passage.
Please sing along if you'd like. Westward from the deepest strait, 'tis there 'twas said to lie, the sea route to the Orient, for which so many died. Seeking gold and glory, leaving weathered, broken bones, and the long forgotten, lonely cairn of stones. For just one time, I would take the Northwest Passage to find the hand of Franklin reaching for the street, tracing one more line through a land so wide and savage, and make a Northwest Passage to the sea. 3 centuries thereafter, I take passage over land, in the footsteps of great Kelsey, where a sea of flowers began. Watching cities rise before me, then behind me sink again. This tardiest explorer driving hard across the plain. For just one time, I would take the Northwest Passage to find the hand of Franklin reaching for the North Sea, tracing one warm line through a land so wide and savage, and make a Northwest Passage to the sea. And through the night behind the wheel, the mileage clicking west, I think upon Mackenzie, David Thompson and the rest, who cracked the mountain ramparts and did show a path for me to raise the roaring Fraser to the sea. For just one time, I would take the Northwest Passage to find the hand of Franklin reaching for the North Sea, tracing one warm line through a land so wide and savage, and make a Northwest Passage to the sea. How then am I so different from the first men through this way? Like them, I left a settled life, threw it all away, to seek a Northwest Passage at the call of many men, to find there but the road back home again. For just one time, I would take the Northwest Passage to find the hand of Franklin reaching for the North Sea, tracing one warm line through a land
For these gifts, sorry, you guys, for these gifts and all that you do for this community and for the wider community, we give thanks. Judith. All righty. That was awesome. A lot of people knew the lyrics to that. All right, some announcements. Here's some of it. We've got a lot going on now. Check your e-bulletin for a fuller report, but here's a few things. Today, casserole lunch happening downstairs. Diana's done it again. Suggested donation $5 for these things, but please just come and join us if you don't have it. Here's a new thing. For all you logo files, and that word will earn you 15 points or 30 points on a double word score. There's some Scrabble happening today in the fireside room after the service. A few people brought, or is it going to be here? Not down there. Yeah, not enough room down there. Okay. So have your casserole and come back up here, and you can think of long, fancy Scrabble words while you're eating. Next week, it's going to be a real treat. Allison and Vox Lumina will be carrying this one as we drop deep into the meaning of Christmas. Allison's going to share a very lovely story called The Fourth Wise Man by Henry Van Dyke. And this is a service that's going to be absolutely full of music. Choir, jazz ensemble, Deanna will be singing a solo. I think that if you've been waiting to invite a friend to a service sometime this year, put this one on the calendar. It might be a good choice for that. Also, Christmas is a time that brings out extreme emotions in people, as we know. Not everyone's on the positive side of the ledger. If you can't bear to put on a happy face, but you're yearning to be in community, Carrie and Liz are offering, again, a Blue Christmas service, December 17th. If I've just described how you're feeling this time of year, you could not be in better hands than with these two. There'll be music, there'll be love. Put it on the calendar. Final little thing, on your way out, down to lunch or out the door, I prepped these little sleeves of paper, and they're just for you to take home. You'll see them on the table, or someone might hand one to you on the way out, and it's to think about, kind of consonant with what we were talking about today, somebody in your life who really helped you out when you needed it. So there's space for you to think of three people, and somehow just even writing that down makes a difference, even though they may never know about it. Okay, now because belting out hymns with others is good for you, good for your health, and science backs us up on this, I'm going to invite Kathy, who's been doing absolutely yeoman service at the back end of this service, to close the loop on the Song of Community. So verses 4 and 5 now, and this time, you guys are all welcome and invited and encouraged to be her tailwind.
Will we the love that holds the despised, the stranger who wanders, the focus of lies, with the sure as mountains, with earth's big demise, together, my friends, will we bond, a love that heals, friend, that bends, friend, that rising and turning, then yields, friend, like a mountain to rain, or frost in the spring, or darkness that turns with the dawn. It's like turning, my friend, by turning that love moves on. Will we love with roots growing deep, and sap pushing branches to wake from their sleep, their leaves burnt amber with morning's full sweet. Together, my friends, will we bond, a love that heals.
Joseph Campbell, not a Unitarian, but Unitarian adjacent for sure, in his book, Myths to Live By, he talks about the true quest. And I think you know roughly how this goes. Something happens to you, disrupting your humdrum life and sheepdogging you out into the extraordinary world from which you come back changed. But changed how? This is the part that I think a lot of people actually get wrong, and Joseph Campbell sets us straight. The true quest isn't about self-growth or self-knowledge or self-betterment, I. No, what's happening on a true quest, he says, is that you're gathering wisdom and honing your character so that you can put it to use, making other people's lives better. The true quest, in other words, is to bread and butter up. And with that, let's call it a wrap. We extinguish this flame. The world calls us to live with depth, meaning, and purpose.
We go forth with courage and love.
Thank you to everybody who made this service possible. You know who you are. Malcolm, Kathy for guiding us over the finish line in Allison's absence. And all of you, give yourselves a pat on the back for continuing to believe in this thing, this rabbit we're pulling out of the hat here week on week. Thank you for continuing to support it by showing up so enthusiastically. This is distributed ministry. There's no other way to put it. It's darn near a miracle. Please take each other's hands.